For a long time, I've heard of the greatness of Junji Ito, the GOAT of horror manga. His works have always been on my to-read list, but I just never got around to them, likely because I'm both skeptical of the experience of horror manga and hesitant to read the best there is to offer and know that it can't be topped. But all of a sudden, an opportunity presented itself for me to experience arguably Junji Ito's most popular work, Uzumaki, in anime form, with the 4-episode release that just happened in the fall 2024 anime season. Well, I say sudden, but apparently this anime has been in the works for a very long time, over 5 years if I'm not mistaken, and that was a signal for many that it would be either absolutely amazing or just downright terrible, with no in between. And if you don't live under a rock, you know how that ended up going. But as someone with no background in the manga, I went into it with fresh eyes, not judging it as an adaptation, but more as its own piece of media. And today, I'm here to give you my honest thoughts on how it went. Now I'm going to break this up into 2 different parts. My thoughts on episode 1 and my thoughts on the rest. Because after episode 1, I deliberately took a day and just waited to watch the rest because I wanted to appreciate it for what it was. I had heard that was the best episode, so I just wanted to let that rest for a second before I went on. So this is my thoughts on episode 1 just to begin. Episode 1 did a great job of creating an unsettling atmosphere almost immediately. The black and white was a nice creative choice, and it helps to maintain that eerie feeling. Honestly, from what I'm seeing, it seems like that's the only way you can really adapt Junji Ito's manga, because there have been color attempts in the past and those apparently did not hit, but I haven't seen them myself, so I can't speak to them. The story though, it kind of starts quickly, but I actually like that. And it's like let's skip the nonsense and get straight into this world. It almost simultaneously made me both really invested and think the whole thing was silly. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think with horror, there's a fine line between the scary and the funny. And I think this actually did a good job of playing on both. And apparently that's one of the strengths of his manga as well. So it sounds like they did a good job with that. It definitely has some freaky imagery, and that stuff gave me goosebumps, made my skin crawl. I absolutely can't stand some things like that. Not even because it's scary, it's just downright disgusting. And that stuff really puts me off. So it was kind of tough to watch this period. But that kind of means it was doing its job, so I can't be too mad at it. And honestly, it's part of why I never read the manga. But here we go. I forced myself to watch this for you guys, so hopefully someone watches this video. All in all, though, episode 1 was definitely solid and a great setup for the creepiness of the spiral and what it does to people. I feel like a lot happened pretty quickly, but I'm not sure how the manga is paced, so I can't really speak to whether this is faithful or not. It definitely was a bit rapid for my taste, but it wasn't the end of the world, and I thought, okay, maybe this is just how they're going to get through the intro. There's a lot of setup, let's get through it quickly, and then the rest might slow it down a bit. But you're going to see what happened with that in episode 2. Now, like I said before, I deliberately took a day after watching episode 1 before watching the rest because I wanted to appreciate it for what it was. What the entire anime could have been. But boy, was this a generational fall off. I'm not sure how this was even possible with the amount of time this anime has been in production. 5 years from what I'm hearing, 5+ years for 4 episodes. That's an average of an episode, more than an episode. I can't even do the math, but let's say an episode a year just to be on the safe side. Even that, obviously they definitely weren't working on it that much because look at what happened, but that's crazy. This must have been production hell behind the scenes. The low-hanging fruit is the animation, but before that, let's talk about the pacing, because the pacing is on some Usain Bolt level quickness. I mentioned how episode 1 felt quite quick, but wow, was that just a precursor. This episode, I'm talking about episode 2, felt like a blitz, and the manga isn't that long from what I've seen, at least chapter count wise. I can't speak to page count, but this still seems way too fast. Now for the animation, I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's just downright terrible. Like, this is some of the animation I was doing back in freaking class in college or something, and I didn't even take animation courses. I was just bored, and I didn't even do that. So now I'm just capping. That's how bad this animation is. And well, that beach scene, just downright comical. Like, if this was aiming to be a comedic show, I gotta say, that was peak. That was actually peak comedy. If they flip the marketing on its head and say this is a comedy, they actually might have themselves an all-timer on their hands. But the beach scene is just, you had people moonwalking forward on sand. I've never seen animated assets so socially distanced from each other. And well, I say that, but this year we also had Tower of God Season 2 and Blue Lock Season 2 is airing right now. So just back-to-back-to-back fumbles. Somehow this is actually in competition with those for the worst. It's not even outright worst. And that punch in episode 2 looked like when actors show you the behind the scenes of how they fake a punch, but this is animation where you don't have to hold back. So this put me in the mood to watch a boxing anime because that was terrible. Oh my god, that dude didn't even hit him. Even scenes that were similar to episode 1, like the hospital scene, just looked like a step down, which makes even less sense because you have the assets to use right there. I just don't understand how this was even possible. It's just a failure on every level. This whole thing was just a mess. I don't even want to think about it anymore, so I'm just going to wrap up the video here. But if there's one thing I can be grateful for from the Uzumaki anime, is that I learned my lesson. No more waiting around. Next time, I'm just going to read the manga first. But with all that being said, thanks for watching, especially if you made it this far. This video is on the shorter side for me, but I just can't talk about this anime anymore. It's just not good. Even thinking about some of that imagery just makes me feel disgusted. So it's just a lose-lose on every front. If it would just look like that, but it was just good, then of course that's doing its job. But now I'm just like, why the hell did I even put myself through this? So let me know in the comments. Have you watched Uzumaki? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? And if not, are you gonna watch it? My advice, if you want to laugh, go ahead. But if you actually want a good horror anime, just skip it, man. Save yourself the time. I just regret watching it. Also, let me know if you've read the manga, and if so, how that is, and how is the anime as an adaptation. But I could probably guess what you're gonna say. I'm just curious to hear about the manga in the comments. If you have even 5 seconds to spare though, it'd help a lot if you liked, subscribed, and all that other good stuff. There should be a new video out same time next week. See ya.